Hey there guys, thanks for tuning in. Today I'm going to talk to you about developing grip strength and forearm strength with just bodyweight training. So your grip strength is actually really important for your general physical development. Not only do you use it obviously to hold the weights that you're going to be curling and pressing, but if you're doing bodyweight exercise, then you actually use your forearm strength in order to balance a lot of the time. If you think about it, your whole weight is going straight for your wrists, and all that is controlled by your forearm. If you want to increase your bench press, if you want to increase your bicep curl, if you want to be able to do better handstands, then developing forearm and grip strength is actually a really important part of your training, which a lot of people forget and leave out. And this is particularly a problem if you work out from home, because it's not that easy to train your grip or your forearms when you've got no weights or anything like that to use. Normally, if you're going to train your forearms using weight, you would use mostly wrist curls. Wrist curls, you would rest your arm on a bench, you'd hold a weight, and you'd do it that way, and you'd do it that way. But you don't have that option if you're working out with body weight, so you need to get a little bit more inventive, and I'm going to show you how you do that. You might find that once you start improving your grip strength, that actually your strength across the board improves. It will improve your martial arts as well, and just you'll be generally more powerful. So this is worth investing a little bit of time in at the end or the beginning of your biceps workout. That's where I put it. So first of all, let's break down what your grip strength and your forearm strength is actually made of, where it comes from. So you've got your forearms obviously, and they control the movements of your wrists. You have your forearm flexors, which are what make you do that, and you have your forearm extensors, which are what make you do that. I don't know if you can see. So you have the forearms there that pull you that way, and the muscles there that help you pull in that way. This is what's very important for doing handstands, because you're using those muscles to stabilise your hand. You'll find often that when you give up doing handstands and fall, the reason is that your arm tilts that way and you topple over. So you want to increase the strength of those forearm muscles to be able to hold your arm steady. You also have your pronator muscles and your supinator muscles. Their job is to twist your arms there. And a pronated grip is one way your hand is overhand, supinated is underhand, as you do for a curl. And the pronator is controlled by something called the pronator teres. I don't know why it's called that. And that twists your arm in that way. The supinator is controlled by something called the supinator muscle, which is a little less imaginative and creative, and that turns your arm in that way. So anything where you're twisting your body, you obviously can't do that on the pull-up bar, anything where you're twisting your arm will engage those, and that's one of the reasons that the twisting bicep curls, where you go from a underhand grip to a hammer grip, are so useful. Then, on top of this, you have muscles. I think one's called the brachialis, and I can't remember the other one, and their job is to aid in the movement of your elbow, going backwards and forwards. These are muscles in your forearms, which basically support the mechanism of your biceps and your triceps. So another good, important reason to work those out, because they'll help you to strengthen your bicep curl and your tricep kickbacks, etc. Then you also have the muscles in your hand, as well as the flexors and extensors, which provide you with your grip strength. That's a combination of several muscles, all kind of weaving over each other. The best way to target those and to train your grip is to just use your grip. So, without further ado, as you can imagine, the wrist curls that I described earlier are for training the extensors and the flexors in the forearms, which I just described. So what's the equivalent that you can do with body weight? Well, using a pull-up bar, you can actually do something very similar. If you notice, I'm only moving my wrists barely, and this isn't the full range of motion. It's not as good as a wrist curl, but if it's all you've got, it's better than nothing. And you can do the same with both an underhand and an overhand grip. A slidier bar in this scenario would actually be beneficial, because I'd be able to slide my arm up more, and it works quite well on the neutral grip. Probably that's the best, but you can only do the flexors with that. The neutral grip allows me to bring the wrists up, and like that. You can feel it a little bit in the forearms. Again, it's not great. You could also add it to your regular pull-up at the end. Just feel your forearms engage there, and put in a slight wrist flex at the top of each pull-up. So that's one way of training those. The other is just to do handstands, do lots of them, because like I say, you're going to be using that to balance. And if you try going from a leaning tower handstand, which is where you're not at a straight line, to a normal one, if you try doing things like planche push-ups, all these things, you'll be having your wrist at awkward angles against the ground, and as you do that, you will be engaging the forearms to an extent. Speaking of press-ups, by the way, one of the best ways to make press-ups harder on your forearms and your fingers and hand strength is, of course, to do it on your fingers. And if you're Bruce Lee, you could do it on one finger or 2 fingers or 3 fingers. That's a good one, although I find it's quite achy. I'm not sure if it's great if you've got arthritis. Another really good one is to do the Superman press-ups, which are the ones where your arms are extended right out in front of you, so that really your arm is at this angle when you're doing the press-ups. And as you can imagine, that requires a lot of forearm strength to keep that position stable. Another one is the Lalan push-ups, which is the same thing, but on your fingers, double hard. Check out my index of bodyweight moves. Both moves are described in more detail on there. Link in the description. So that's how you would train the flexors and the extensors with bodyweight. It's not ideal. You can also obviously use self-resistance, where you would be pushing against those muscles, like so. But remember, training grip also uses the extensors and the flexors to a degree. So you grab your towel. There are many ways you can train your grip using bodyweight and a pull-up bar. One is simply to hold on to something that requires a bit more grip than a pull-up bar, such as this towel. So then I'm literally just holding myself up through my gripping strength, and you can feel that in your hand. The good thing about this is that it also toughens up your grip. You can feel it on your hands. And a lot of the reason, again, you often give up on movement sooner is because your hands hurt. That's why you shouldn't be using gloves, because you'll never strengthen your grip that way. If you want your strength to actually be useful. Doing pull-ups from a tree, by the way, fantastic for grip and for general toughness of your hands, because you're holding onto this big barky branch, which is quite difficult in that. It's large, and that's another useful thing. If you can make the bar larger, it's similar to some people use larger barbells in the gym in order to train their grip. You can similarly do the same thing with the pull-up bar if you can find a way to make it thicker. I mean, that hasn't made a huge difference, but it's actually forcing me to use just the edges of my hands, because I can't quite grip onto it where I normally would, and the towel itself isn't that stable. So although it hasn't worked perfectly, it's still changing the grip slightly. Again, if you think about the way you train naturally, you know, the pull-ups we'd have done in the wild would have been climbing trees, and you didn't have this one uniform width of bar. You were always grabbing onto different size things. Perhaps one of the best and most underrated exercises for strengthening your grip, though, is the good old hang, where you simply hang from a bar. And here I'm using an underhand grip. It's actually harder if you use an overhand grip, like so. And see how long you can hang. If you can hang for a couple of minutes, then you can consider yourself very strong. But again, you'll feel that stretches your lats and is generally quite uncomfortable. But they say it's good for your back, I'm not so sure, but yeah, you can try it. But Ido Patel believes in hanging a lot. But yeah, what you'll find is that it's actually your hands that start to give out first as they start to slide. So adding a hang, that's a nice symmetric hold of sorts, to the end of your workout is a good strategy. You can also use a flexed hang where you're at the top of the movement. You'll find that this actually is less difficult on the grip itself, but because you're just a slightly easier angle, more of a right angle instead of straight down, trying to grip on. But again, it's mixing up that counts a lot. So you've done a whole bunch of pull-ups to the point of failure, then why not just test your grip by just hanging there for a minute or two afterwards. Another option, of course, is to hang using just your fingers, like so. And you can do curls whilst you hang, and you can do pull-ups whilst hanging just from your fingers. And the further to the edge of your fingers you go, the more it will train, strengthen some of those muscles that you also happen to use for crushing things. That's actually something that a lot of rock climbers do in order to increase their grip strength, because they have to grip onto these tiny little bits on the wall using just pure finger strength. So they'll do pull-ups from their fingers like so, using something called a fingerboard, which you can buy online relatively cheaply. Yeah, rock climbers actually have amazing forearms. They're huge, as well as lats, because they're pulling themselves all the time everywhere, like lat pull downs essentially. And one of the best things you can do using your body weight to improve your forearm strength and your lat strength, and also just for general body weight training, is to do rock climbing. If you have a rock climbing club near you, then I highly recommend giving it a go. Or you can always just rock climb in your area. Obviously you probably don't live near a cliff face, and I wouldn't recommend you climbing up there without lots of equipment and stuff. But what you can do is to do traversing, and that's where you don't climb up the rock face, you climb along the rock face. So you grab onto the wall and you just climb along. Just the only rule is that your feet can't touch the floor. Invest in some climbing shoes if you want to take it seriously. They do make a huge difference. Or you can even just climb around the bark at the in the park around the edge of a tree. And like all these things just require you to grip onto the wall like that, and it's a fantastic endurance task, and it's amazing for building your lats and your forearm strength. So something else to consider as a very unique way of adding to your training. Again, it still takes time. It's not the most fun thing in the world, but it's worth adding in if you don't have dumbbells that you can use to increase your grip. Or just every now and then use a towel instead of using the bar. Just keep it mixed up and try to involve your grip. You know, don't let your grip feel left out, because forearms, they get lonely when you're training all the other body parts, and it's folly, it's pure folly to ignore them, because you can't do anything that uses your arms without going through your forearms and through your grip. Finally, the way that you might work the pronators and supinators is with body weight is you could try using the perfect push-ups. There's those push-up stands that twist as you go up and down, or as I did in a previous video, you can try just twisting your own hands as you do press-ups. If you put your hand on a cloth, or if you've got a shiny floor, or just man up and do it. And again you can do it by just doing a press-up like so, but also trying all the different angles, just so that you're training the forearms in different ways. So there you go, there's a whole bunch of different ways you can train your forearms and your grip. Try and work them into your other workouts, and you'll notice that your overall strength increases a lot. And when your overall strength increases, you can lift more weight, and when you can lift more weight, then your muscle size increases. So worth doing. Hope this is helpful. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye bye for now.